All right, Cyber Traders, time to wake up and welcome on back here to this Monday afternoon meeting. Great to see all of our students and members alike inside the Cyber Group room. We have Norman, Mike, Grant, Chuck, who's been killing it today, I think, on the CFVI stock. Great to see Lewis as well, Ray included, loud and clear from all. Perfect. And if you're joining us back on social media, welcome on back as well, Facebook Live or YouTube. I was saying that in jest earlier, just a moment ago, with waking on up and coming back to the market because really outside of literally the last like 2 minutes or so, last little inch up on the SPY, it has been completely flat, a really slow market. But with that in mind, we've had a couple of good movers, right? A couple of good stocks that we were calling out upon the market opening up today. And if not those stocks in particular, perhaps some stocks that can move similar to the stocks that we were originally following. So for reference, PHUN, fun. This stock we were watching heading into the market open today, rightfully so. It was on the morning watch list, made a really good move. So in full, we'll cover this move inside our Traders Talk workshop. Again, that's our Q&A workshop we host inside our live trading room every Tuesday morning, that being tomorrow. So for all of us in social media, Facebook Live, just go right down to the link on the banner below right there of the stream to join for tomorrow's workshop. But long story short, this had a big iceberg order at 290. It broke under and over it. It held it right away from that point. Ended up getting the rub with the DWAC trade, right? DWAC was the bigger mover, at least early on today. Upon the market opening up, this was making a much better run. So we were hopeful to see FUN move with it. And although it did so in pre-market, it took a while for this to really break out and make the big pop and elaborate run that we would hope for. So again, we'll cover the X's and O's on this trade, at least in tomorrow's Traders Talk workshop. For right now, taking us into this time of the day, it's near the highs, if not just broke a high a moment ago. So we'll easily put this back on our list here, the fun stock. But I was saying, hey, if it wasn't the fun trade, maybe it was the DWAC, albeit more expensive. They move similar. They're in the same business. They're both, to a degree tied to Trump, I think. So any sort of news up or down with him, these stocks are going to move. Fausto brought it up earlier in the morning meeting. This just creates great opportunity for us. I don't care about the news or the politics. Really, I really couldn't care any less. All I care about is at least providing an opportunity based off the strategy that I use. A strategy that I use on any one stock, you could apply on this or, the fund trade or the other one. This is the one that Chuck killed it on today. The CFVI trade. This one ended up making a really nice push today to the point where it broke all-time highs. All three of these stocks we ended up originally trading going back into mid to late October. I think CFVI actually later, but the FUN and the DWAC trades, Fausto covered this from the morning meeting. They're known runners for us going back into mid-October when we were here at our Trader Summit in Long Island, New York. I know a lot of us inside the trading room were a part of that. Well, hey, we ended up trading the FUN trade back then. We ended up trading DWAC back then. And we found out back in December that CFVI is tied to those stocks to a great level. So, hey, CFVI today just broke an all-time high. It broke out from that all-time high roughly off of 1550-ish. And for right now, it's at the highs as well, the highs of the day at least. So the FUN trade, the CFVI we'll put back on our list, and the DWAC, all three in tandem there. All right, folks. What we'll do, though, otherwise, is go right from top to bottom. I do want to just recap a couple of the other movers that we ended up catching, and all three of these are still very tradable right now, so I don't want to take too long of time to go through this. The NVCT stock, also a new IPO. I don't know if it has any relation to the others. I doubt it, just to say at least. Ended up making a really good move upon the market opening up shortly after 10 a.m. Eastern time. It ended up getting halted. It got halted at $5, or I should say it reopened at $5. Well, we talk about that quite heavily inside our live trading room. When a stock reopens off of a volatile halt like that, we tend to see a big transaction pop up on time and sales. Well, we ended up seeing one of those big transactions pop up right at $5. So I know this could be easy to say looking at the chart, but hey, after it held above 5 for quite some time, it broke it as support. And although you would anticipate for that to turn into resistance, it goes back to how we always teach the strategy. When it breaks through a big level on the way up, and give me a quick sec, folks. I'm just realizing right now for all of us live inside the trading room, at least here, I made a crucial mistake right as I started this meeting. I failed to share my screen. I was actually on Rich's screen there as he was helping me out. I just got the chat from one of our students, Barb, right now. Barb, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. All right. Now we're good to go, at least. I'm surprised nobody caught that up until right now. Now, for all of us live inside the trading room, you now should see my screen. Again, Barb, I really appreciate you giving me the chat there. Thank you. NVCT. Nonetheless, it ended up making the huge slingshot, the breakout from resistance off of $5. Ended up making this elaborate run up from there, where it ended up breaking over 8 later on. It ended up essentially breaking over 10, but held under it. Held under it afterwards. So major resistance right now on this trade is at $10. It's making lower highs. It's kind of filling in sideways, I reckon you could say, but it's the lower highs that's throwing me off for right now. So I feel like we had our fun on this trade, no pun intended with fun, the stock, but we had our fun on this NVCT trade. I think that, the run is done for the most part. Typically, a stock like this will only end up beginning to pull back further. I know it's at all-time highs on the daily chart, new IPO, but for right now, at the lower highs it's making, I'm going to pass on it for right now. All right. I think the audio is good, Mike. I rarely ever have issues with audio. Do me a quick favor, log out, log back in. That should help you. Now, as we continue to go through those, Seed, SEED, well, it's another stock that ended up making a nice move beginning in pre-market. It's not breaking all-time highs. I had to zoom out there on the daily chart. In fact, it actually looks like it's approaching historical past support, which now we should, anticipate to be resistance. So let's see. We'll draw a quick line for right now. You would assume to be off of $7. Looks like 7,705 ish, 707 perhaps. The more this pushes up, I'm definitely anticipating that blue line to hold as a resistance level. So for right now, the seed trade we'll put on our list here too. LKCO, former runner for us. We've actually done pretty well on this stock back over the last year or so. You could see just from the daily chart, but I guess we took our eyes off it for a little while. It fell below a buck. Right now having a good day, but we'll pass on it here. All right, we keep going though, folks, and now we'll go back to a couple of other former runners that we had from the end of last week. The KAVL stock ended up making another nice run here. It took a little while to get the gears going, but ended up getting the push as it broke higher from 120-ish, 125. Made a nice move here today, right? So definitely good stock to keep on your side list, and then otherwise from that point, we'll see what else is out there here as well. All right, so KVL, the other one, BKKT, former runner. You could just see dating back to early October, but really we ended up following this one again, going back into last week. Early on, it wasn't the biggest move. It ended up dying off heading into the early afternoon, but hey, another nice move once again for this BKKT trade. Ended up making a really nice pop once the market opened up, but ended up making the slingshot when it pulled back. It held, and then from that point ended up making the higher high. So, this is another one that you can keep a smaller eye on across this week. Just topped off here roughly over 580 and pulling back now. So if it was closer to the highs comparative to where it's at, where it is here, I'd be more keen to it. But for right now, I just want to see something either closer to the highs or something closer to the lows. I know that Bitcoin, of course, ended up making another nice move today, and that's something I wasn't necessarily expecting. We'll talk Bitcoin here coming up in just a moment. I thought there'd be a little bit more chop to it, so I'm happy to see stocks like HUT, stocks like Riot and Mara, of course, Bitfarms, BITF, I think that is. They're all on the gainer side here as we continue to go through. Those are going to be in play throughout this whole week. Up or down, long or short. CORZ is another mining stock, crypto mining stock that I think one of our students, Mark, introduced to us inside our live trading room earlier last week. So hey, the more you know. I didn't realize that with this CORZ. So I'm definitely going to keep this in mind myself going forward. Spirit Airlines, that's just kind of this is kind of like grinding on up right now, but of course with the trend that it's made from the early afternoon, it's at the highs, it's not illiquid, it's got a really tight spread and trading millions of shares today in total, like 31 million right now and counting. So definitely good stock here, save. And then with that, I reckon we'll check in with the airlines like American Airlines, United as well, perhaps moving in sympathy with SAVE or perhaps just moving with the markets in general. I mean, all of these just seem to be tradable, folks. Spirit's coming off of news, so I like that a little bit more as far as a day trade here for this afternoon. Peloton, just choppy, really volatile, not worth it for a $30 stock. EXPR too slow. Just wanted to check it out pretty quickly. You know, former runner, of course. And TSN pretty expensive, but Fausto, we did pretty well on this earlier today. Fausto had called it out off the slingshot as it pulled back down to like 95, 95.50 that is, then ended up taking off from there. But again, pretty expensive right now, this Tyson trade. All right, so we'll hop over to the losers list. We'll see what's on that side of the field. Of course, I'll talk a little Bitcoin here at the end. I gave you my thoughts on that heading into the end of last week. So we'll see where it's at comparative to where we left off. But otherwise, we'll see what's on the loser side here first. Whole bunch of stuff hard to borrow, really, as I just quickly glance at the top percent losers here. I mean, up until number 14, all hard to borrow. And unless if a stock is really down a lot, trading a lot of volume, then I'm not going to be too interested in a potential dead cat bounce. Like DRMA is down enough, I'll look at it, but just really spotty charts. So, you know, I'm going to pass on that here. Some percent gainers over the last week, like INDO, SOPA, ISIG, former runners that are now on the loser side here today. That's just about it, folks. That's just about it for me so far. If there are any other trades that you would want me to look at here pretty quickly, type it in the chat board. Let me know. From Ricardo on the PHUN trade, we talked about the PHUN earlier, so that one's already on our list, and that one looks still, you know, pretty strong, holding pretty well here. Got a good list already, folks. You know, the three stocks that are tied together, PHUN, DWAC, and CFVI, those are all tied together. And then we have Seed, and then we have Save. So, you know, all of those are pretty good. We have a decent list. Quickly show Riot for right now. Riot is trying to kind of push back up. I'm not a full believer just yet on it. It's just to say, at least for all these times, Bitcoin or Bitcoin stocks are up on the day. They're up, you know, like 12, 13, 15%. Normally, when they're at the highs, they don't normally end up continuing to make their big moves. It's not to say Riot's at the highs right now or Mara, but I think that Bitcoin altogether has pushed up quite a bit over the last 48 hours. I just feel like that's going to begin to consolidate, pull back down eventually. So with that, I'm thinking Riot could kind of hold here, if not eventually pull back further. All right, so really quick with Bitcoin, this is the daily chart just to show you where we left off from Friday heading into today. We ended up seeing Bitcoin begin to break above major past support, which which back from Friday I was anticipating to be a resistance. So it did make a pretty clean pop above it. I just want to show this really briefly, if anything. I have this dashed red line here. Notice that it didn't hold perfect, right? Ended up slipping down a little bit before it popped right back up. Well, this green line represents the same percentage in error from this gap essentially to here. So it actually broke above the same percentage range. So if we happen to see this pull back, I'll feel pretty interested in buying, anticipating support to more likely hold over time. And then for a nice slingshot perhaps down the line there. But hey, if this keeps skyrocketing, I have enough already. I'm content as is. I'll be happy to see this continue to push up. But always would like to add more and more and more. So should that happen, should we happen to see Bitcoin pull back closer to 41,000 or even 40 here, I'd be real interested in anticipating support from that point. All right, what else you got for me here, folks? From Ari on Snapchat. Let's see. A little pop up. My guess, knowing Ari, he's probably already in the trade, probably already up 15 to 20 cents. It's pushing up a little bit here, right? I could put this on our watch list. It's not up like 5+%. You know, it's a little expensive. I like the pop. If you've done really well on Snap consistently over the last week, well, you know who you are. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you put Snap on your main list then, right? NCLH reminds me of just any side list stock right now, Brian. It's at the highs, by all measures, it's tradable. Again, like if you do well on NCLH on the regular, I'm sure you'd be more keen to follow it here as the markets are back near the highs again. I just want to try and find stocks that are either much stronger moving, anything that is moving faster perhaps than those side list stocks. And if not, that's fine. I mean, we'll call the list as is because we have PHUN, we have CFVI, and DWAC. All three of those are extremely volatile to begin with. Just take a look at CFVI right now. All right, so I think that just about wraps it up, folks. Again, there's plenty other side list stocks that I'm sure that you might be more interested in following, but unless if you're doing really well on those stocks every single day of the week, I'd rather start and stick with this list if I were you. All right, so hey, between these five and perhaps a couple of others that pop up on our scanners throughout this afternoon, let's try and work together as a team here going into the next 65 to 75 minutes, folks. For all of us on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Facebook, I appreciate you joining me each and every day, each and every afternoon. I always like to post my email address here at the end of these meetings. Just any questions that you may have, any questions about our stock picks or about trading in general, about crypto perhaps on top, feel more than free to send over a quick email right to josh@ctutrading.com. But like I'd said earlier, for all of us in social media, at least, if you wanted to join John and Norman and Ari and Brian and Grant, Ricardo, Mike, all of us live inside the trading room, just go right down to the link on the banner below the stream there just to get yourself started. But folks, I'll be back on the mic in just a few minutes from now, or rather, I should say, that was a bit of a lie. I'll be back on at 3:30. I have a coaching call with one of our students, Sam, and then I'll be back on right at 3:30 to wrap things up for you folks going into the close. Talk to you soon.